It's been really cool meeting all these flat earthers here. Something like 500 people here. Pretty amazing. Everybody's been very kind, very loving, very supportive, which is a lot different from what I experience on social media on a regular basis. So this has been kind of a refreshing time for me.
Very nice. And what is this conference like? What does it mean to you to be a part of something like this?
It's humbling to be a part of something like this. It's also frightening. It's terrifying in some ways. This, if you want to call it a movement, is definitely growing. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and to have some small part in it, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, you're making history, man. So what do you think the future holds in store for Flat Earth?
If things continue to go the way they are right now, I think the future of Flat Earth, there may come a time where people will look back at previous decades and say, people were so stupid. At one point, they thought we were on a spinning ball hurling through space, towing alongside the sun. In the past, it's been, people were so stupid to believe the Earth was flat. We may be seeing a bit of a tipping point beginning right now. The exponential growth that we've seen since 2015, that's when I got it. So that's my frame of reference. I got started in 2015. 2015, everybody's mocking, ridicule, you're stupid, you're an idiot. 2016, what the heck, this guy's still looking into this? Come on, this is stupid, move off of this. And in my case, a lot of my audience, I had already had a pretty sizable audience from my previous work. A lot of them thought I had gone crazy and were going to write me off, but they saw the abuse, if I can use that word, that I was taking on social media from people, and they said, man, this guy's not backing down. I mean, here's this guy's been dealing with this, if you've seen my Facebook page or my YouTube comments, and people are going psycho on you on a daily basis, right? And I know I've had many people come to me and say, man, I've seen what you're going through, and after a year, and I called you names too and everything, and they're like, well, man, if he's still at it a year later, maybe there's something to it. Maybe I should look into it too. I had a lot of my former audience, I should say, come to me and say things like that. And all I've been saying all along is like, look, take one day, just one 24-hour period of time. You can do it all in one day or spread out over a week, but take 24 hours of your life and look into it. Because I know if you do, you're done. You're going to end up where I am. And that's what's happened with a lot of people. And then there was like a paradigm shift that happened in 2017, at least from my perspective with my audience, is when people that I used to associate with and used to share stages with and other conferences and other materials that I was presenting before, they were coming against me. And even my audience was coming against me. But now, it's like those guys, everybody's going against them for not believing. So, I have seen within my little world a bit of a tipping point where public opinion has shifted such that the people who are ridiculing me are being ridiculed for not looking into it by others. And I'm going, wow, I don't know what happened, but something shifted around 2017. And if what I'm seeing here at this convention is any indicator, well, that tipping point is going to tip even further, and more people are going to be forced to at least take a little bit of time and look into it. Maybe you won't get convinced, maybe you will. But I think it's becoming a force to be reckoned with, put it that way. And moving forward, I think it's just going to get bigger.
Most definitely. And kind of going back to when you first kind of got into this, what really made you sort of consider Flat Earth,
Well, it was a friend, his name is John Gabrielson. He came up to Dallas with his family, and we went out to eat. And we were sitting there, and he says, hey, Rob, how does water bend? I said, what are you talking about? It's kind of a random question, right? He's like, well, how does water? I'm like, water doesn't bend. Water seeks its level. He said, well, we're on a globe, right? Yeah, of course. Well, how does the Pacific Ocean bend 8 inches per mile squared to maintain the curve of the ball? And of course, at that time, my knee-jerk reaction, like pretty much everybody, is, well, gravity. Gravity. But he planted that seed that got me thinking. Like, and then I ended up listening to an interview that Mark Sargent did on Canary Cry Radio. It was an hour-and-a-half interview. And wow, I mean, I went into it thinking this has got to be a joke, right? You know, flat Earth and clues and whatever. And by the end of that interview, you know, I went into it thinking this is stupid, this is ridiculous, I'm rolling my eyes, this is crazy. By the end of the interview, I'm going, crap, that guy kind of made some sense. So I got to listen to it again. So I listened to it again. I was driving, and when I got home, I'm like, I'm going to watch these flat Earth clues. Now, to be honest, the first one didn't really impress me that much. It deals with like movies and stuff like that. But the second one got my attention. The second one was the Bird Wall, and it dealt with Admiral Byrd. I had already done quite a bit of research on Admiral Byrd when I was really into Hollow Earth theory, which I still am, and some of my other research. You know, so I was aware of who this guy was, and aware of the weirdness of Antarctica. But for me, it was all about, you know, alien bases and Nazis went down there after World War II, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And try to figure out all that stuff. So he really caught my attention with part 2, and then as we went through part 3, 4, and so forth, and at the end of each video, he had his contact information. I'm like, I gotta call this guy. So that's all like April 13th and April 14th of 2015. Called him up and got him on my show on the 15th of 2015. And if you heard that interview, you know, I was like, I very much still believe in, there's a guy named Neil Adams who has this model of the expanding Earth, the expanding globe Earth theory. And I was very much in favor of that. In fact, I even taught about it in December of 2014. I did a whole series on it. So December 14th, 2014, I'm teaching expanding Earth, globe Earth theory. April 2015, I'm kind of being challenged on that. And it was either in the interview itself or sometime afterwards off the air or whatever, but Mark challenged me. He said, I get it, you believe the globe. Cool, that's all right, fine. Prove it. But prove it without using NASA, the government, or the military. Well, of course, the first thing you think of, we've all seen the pictures, right? The pictures, well, they come from NASA, the government, you know, military, stuff like that. And then you start looking into the pictures and you start seeing that they're openly admitting that these things are composite images. And you look into the moon landing and realizing that the Apollo program was a big fraud, a big scam, and it is. And if you acknowledge that Apollo never went to the moon, then that picture that we've all seen in all of our textbooks from Apollo 17 never happened. You know, so at this point, you're like, what is happening here? You know, and I the first thing I should have done, because I'm a Bible-believing Christian, I should have consulted the scriptures first. It was actually about the last thing I did. I had gone down this long path of looking at all kinds of other things that really challenged what I thought I knew to be true about the globe. But then when I went back to the Bible, because I taught about the globe from the Bible, I taught creation science and all that kind of stuff, and Kent Hovind, Carl Ball had this idea of a canopy surrounding the globe Earth. I used to teach all that myself. I knew I had all of that bias in my head. And so when I went back to the biblical text, I just prayed. I said, God, okay, I'm going to try to come to this as a blank slate. Please take an eraser to the whiteboard in my head and get rid of all of that stuff, you know, that causes me to bring my own personal bias to the text. I want you to speak to me directly from the text, and not help me not to be hindered by my own bias. Didn't get very far, man. You're in chapter 1 of the first book of the Bible, Genesis. You're just a few verses in, and I got stuck with the firmament, specifically on the creation day 4. Because on creation day 4, it says he put the sun, moon, and stars in the firmament. Now, I always thought with the Kent Hovind, Carl Ball model, canopy theory, well, that's the sun, moon, and stars are outside of the firmament. You know?
Yeah. So
I'm going, what? I mean, I don't know how many times I have read that and taught that and didn't see that. I mean, it's been there all along. You know, it's not a Mandela effect or anything here, right? Which I don't believe in. So then I start comparing English translations. I'm looking at the King James. I'm like, wow, well, what are the other? Well, everybody's saying in. So I look up the Hebrew there, and the Hebrew word for firmament is rakia, but in those passages is berakia. the letter bait precedes the word. Well, I know enough about Hebrew to know that when the letter bait precedes a word as a prefix, it means in. It's the first letter in our Bible, in the beginning, Bereshit. So I'm going, it says in. And that started for me the beginning of somewhat of a crisis of faith, to be honest with you. Because I was still holding on to my spinning ball that I cherished so much, you know. And for all of 2015, or at least from April to the end of the year, and well into 2016, I was in a wrestling match with God like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I was in a tremendous amount of turmoil in my heart and in my mind. Because my mind is trying to figure stuff out, and there's still things, to be honest with you, even to this day, that still make more sense to me on the globe. But I could see very clearly, because I made the mistake, right, of saying, okay, get rid of my thoughts, God, give me yours. let me hear just from you. And he's saying, hey, you live in a snow globe. And that tension, it was very painful for me. And I'm not lying or exaggerating when I said that I went to bed almost every night in tears. You know, not like, woo, but just kind of like, you just, like, it's pain and struggle internally. And because I would say, God, I don't know what to do with this. I mean, I see what your word says clearly. It clearly says this. But yet, there's all this other stuff that, we've been taught and whatnot. And his only answer to me was, I said what I said. And I begged for more. Well, show me. Prove it. I said what I said. And I did lots of things. I did lots of tests of my own. Published a lot of it online. There's still some of it I haven't got online yet, but I spent a lot of time doing as many practical experiments as I could afford to do. And it was the Lake Michigan test that, God showed me some stuff there, and I put some of it online. There's still a lot of it that I didn't, but I came home and continued those prayers, and the answer shifted from I said what I said to, are you going to believe me now, Rob, or what? And it was the or what part that kind of scared me, because I felt like, okay, you've shown me some stuff here, and I felt like there was going to be consequences if I didn't just say, okay, Uncle, I give. I don't know that there would have been or not, but it was a time for me where I just gave up the struggle. And I finally just prayed and said, all right, God, you said what you said. I'm just going to believe you, come hell or high water. And I can tell you there was a pretty major shift that happened in my life. Two things happened. One, a lot more, I hate to use the word persecution because there's real persecution taking place that I've witnessed in the foreign mission field when I was out there, people being killed and tortured. So I don't want to use that word in a way that, what I have experienced is nothing compared to what real persecution is. But verbal, assaults, let's say, significantly increased. Wow. But at the same time as significant verbal assault was taking place, I felt, and still to this day feel, the favor of God on my life like I have never felt before. And that's saying something. I've been through a lot. Some of my testimonies online. God has done some tremendous things in my life. But wow, I've tried to explain it to somebody not too long ago. I said the only way that I can really describe it is I sense the smile of God. I don't know how else to put it. I feel like He's smiling in a I'm proud of you, son kind of way. I don't know how else to describe it. And I have felt His grace, His favor, and like 1,000,000 pounds is lifted off my shoulders. Because I'm carrying this burden before, like, oh man, what do I do with all this? And I felt the responsibility that I have an audience that's listening to me. And I don't want to be deceived, and the last thing I would ever want to do is lead anybody else astray. I don't want to deceive anybody. So, but I'm feeling all this burden, like, is this true, is this not true? I'm going down this path, I've made it public, it's too late now, everybody knows about it, I'm just, and then it was just like,
Very nice.
It just left, and then, wow, crazy stuff started happening where I just go to check my PO box, and there have been many days where it was a struggle just to drag myself out of bed. Like, do I really want to go through this again? Another day, and I drag myself to the PO box, and I just beat down, man, and I go to check my PO box, and this guy is dressed up in medical scrubs, like a nurse or a doctor or something. He's looking at me, and I'm just checking my PO box. He goes, "Man, dude, don't ever give up." And I said, "What?" He said, "I'm sorry." He says, "I follow you on YouTube. I see all your stuff, and you made a profound impact in my life, and I'm just telling you, you can't quit, man. Don't give up." And like that kind of thing, stuff like that was happening so much, and literally every single time. Every time I'm like, I'm throwing a towel. That's it. I'm done. Email, a letter, somebody walk around the corner, something would happen. And I don't believe in coincidence. Somebody once told me coincidence is God being anonymous. And that's sort of the way it's been for me. So, I'm committed. As of June of 2016, I made it public. Okay, here's the deal. This is what I believe. You can believe it or not, but that's what I'm at.
Righteous, man.